is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
In the digital era, how to regulate the virtual reality world's activities and better protect people's rights in cyberspace. Besides filing lawsuits in courts, are there any other channels to deal with disputes and disagreements? And nearly 30 million people in China are hearing impaired. How are their legitimate rights and interests protected? In this special episode of Closer to China, let's take a closer look at how the Chinese society runs with the rule of law.
To President Xi Jinping, rule of law is of highest importance. Rule of law is the third of the four comprehensives, which was President Xi's first overarching guiding theory of governance, formalized in late 2014 and 2015. More recently, Xi Jinping's thought on the rule of law is a foundation of his political philosophy. As the party puts it, if the rule of law prospers, the country will prosper. If the rule of law declines, the country will be in chaos. She stated, "No country that has successfully achieved modernization has not solved the problems of the rule of law and the rule of man." Xi Jinping thought on the rule of law is said to form a complete system of laws and regulations, which we explore in terms of its goal, principles, and strategies. Xi stresses, comprehensive rule of law is a systematic project, requiring coordination, integrity, and synergy. Here we examine diverse expressions of rule of law with 3 case studies: legal system access by deaf citizens, new rules and venues for Internet-related legal matters, and mediation and dispute resolution at grassroots governance. To appreciate rule of law is to be closer to China.
为了满足自己女友的一切的要求和欲望，他将自己位于沈阳的一套房子给卖掉，唯一的一套房子卖掉，然后拿给了这个女朋友。谁知道这个女朋友拿到钱以后就消失了。那些犯罪分子也喜欢把黑手伸向聋人这个群体，因为他们知道这个群体的法律意识很低，很好骗。
Going from the northeast to Chongqing, the southwestern city, Ma Jing has finally won the lawsuit after 5 years' effort.
我们也就想把马景这个案件办理下来了以后，然后将这个案例呢能够告知于全国的聋人，来提高他们自我防范的意识和防骗意识。
There are over 20 million deaf people just like Ma Jing in China. Relatively few have received higher education. Some are illiterate. The standard Chinese sign language is hugely different from the dialectical sign language used by most deaf people, which makes it very difficult for many deaf people to have normal communication with the wider society.
我的父母都是聋人，为了和父母沟通，从小我就学了手语。 学了手语之后，在和这些聋人进行沟通交流的过程当中，发现了这些聋人就是因为说不出和听不到，参与社会生活以及参与社会法律生活障碍重重。
The effort spent on a case for a deaf person is usually double or triple that of a hearing person. Since 2018, Tong Shuai's team has worked for more than 160,000 deaf people in total.
服务包含了代理聋人案件，给聋人提供法律咨询、司法调解、受理聋人的报案材料、报案立案等等等等一系列的法律范畴的一些活动或服务。
Of all the nearly 600,000 lawyers, Tong Shuai is the only sign language lawyer in China. Deaf people go to him for help from all over the country.
不管是无声世界的代言人也好，还是手语律师第一人也好，在普通人看来，这是一个莫大的荣誉和一个巨大的光环。但是这个东西在我看来，它是一个我心里永远的压力和痛。
To cultivate more sign language lawyers, Tong Shuai recruited more than 30 deaf individuals to study law at his firm in 2017. Tan Ting is one of them. The judicial examination is one of the most difficult of professional qualification exams in China. In 2020, Tan Ting passed the exam, becoming the first and only deaf person to do so since the founding of the People's Republic.
我现在的主要工作是为聋人提供法律方面的服务，比如说为聋人朋友提供法律咨询，线上线下的都有。近3年来，我差不多为全国各地的聋人朋友提供了2万次左右的免费咨询。
科技进步确实是带来了给聋人进行普法的最好渠道。
一个唐帅和一个探听是不够的，因为中国有近3000万的聋人同胞，需要更多的既懂手语又懂法律的人才出现，才能解决他们的障碍。 早上好。那我们现在开始上课了啊。你做生意。
In response to the lack of specialized legal service personnel for the vulnerable deaf population nationwide, Southwest University of Political Science and Law became the first in the country to establish the experimental class of outstanding public legal service talents, with the aim of training a new batch of talents who are proficient in both law and sign language in January 2021.
被继承人死亡时，一开始我也很忐忑，不知道让这些大学生来学手语效果好不好。但是越到后面，特别是到现在，经过了近3年的一个教学，我今年是带的这一届学生，让我看到了很大的希望。
我们不要轻信来历不明的电话和信息。你怎么了？
我们国家很大，人口很多，公共法律服务体系呢，需要一步一步的去建，一步一步的去实现。法律加手语，它只是公共法律服务的一个表达的情形。对弱势群体呢，国家施予关爱，它是公平的一种特别的反应。人权保障呢，是让所有的人，包括残障人士，他们都应该得到保障和权利的实现。在这个过程中间呢，为他们提供帮助。
我们成立了一个叫“法律有声”的公共法律服务站，接待了包括聋人群体在内的一些弱势群体的一些法律咨询。我们也去了重庆市长联、重庆市聋哑学校开设专场的普法咨询活动。
Work to serve disabled individuals by making the public legal service system available to them set up legal assistance workstations, and provide green service channels. Apart from Chongqing, other associations for disabled persons around China are also offering legal services to this group, so that when they apply for legal aid, they can have zero waiting time.
要让老百姓在每一个司法案件中都感受到公平和正义。
做一个有温度的法律人，
与无声处连接世界，
坚定法治信仰，维护法律权威。
我们希望每一位聋人朋友的权益都可以得到保障，
连接每一个听障人走出声音的孤岛。
In caring for those of its citizens who are physically challenged, China has come a long way. In my first major media production in China some 25 years ago, we told the story of a mother struggling to care for her physically challenged son because the handicapped were sometimes considered a kind of embarrassment and thus hidden from society as if they didn't exist. It is a tribute to China's social development that society now openly recognizes its responsibility to the physically challenged, including proper representation on legal matters. It is a small part of the large vision of Xi Jinping thought on the rule of law, which I array into a systematic framework of goals, principles, and strategies. Rule of law goal: comprehensively govern the nation according to law in a people-centered approach. Rule of law principles: maintain party leadership of the rule of law, stress the people-centered approach, govern by law, rule by law, administer by law. Systematic thinking: country, government, and society all under the rule of law. Seek equal rights, equal opportunities, equal rules.
This is Ding Zong, a famous Chinese cartoonist. Many of his satirical comics are widely known in China. In 2016, Ding Zong's son, Ding Wei, noticed that multiple letters and manuscripts related to his parents were being auctioned on a website.
这种家里之间的信出去之后，我觉得好像这件事有点过分了。如果把这话都串起来，这是一个中国近代靠画记录下来的一段历史了。反正他就一步一步都这么都记下来了。
Ding Wei believed that those letters and manuscripts being auctioned were private records of his family life. They were all about the memories of his parents. They were dear to his heart. Selling these contents openly, therefore, infringed on the privacy of him and his parents.
原告呢就以网络侵权责任纠纷案件为由，把收藏品平台和这个拍卖信件的这个用户起诉到我们北京互联网法院了。
On September 9th, 2018, the Beijing Internet Court was officially opened to the public. This is the second Internet Court established in China, after the Hangzhou Internet Court. It mainly handles cases in Beijing, including 11 types of civil and administrative cases. These include disputes over Internet shopping contracts, copyright ownership and infringement disputes, and tort liability disputes, etc.
互联网法院它和传统法院最大的区别有2点，一方面它是在审理方式上是运用互联网的技术来审理相关的案件，从立案到听审到执行，当事人一次都不用跑法院就可以实现诉讼的全过程。另外一个方面主要集中体现在我们审理的案件全部都是涉网的案件。
The plaintiff was in Shanghai, while the defendant was in Beijing. Through the Internet Court, both sides can attend the trial online.
原告认为呢，这个行为呢侵犯了原告的隐私权。
我方作为一个平台，已经尽到了合理的注意义务和事后补救义务，不应该承担侵权责任。
所有的诉讼活动，都是在网上进行，所以说这个就极大的减少了一个在途的时间，也是降低了我们的时间成本和经济成本。
电子化和数据化的这个证据，让我们已经几乎把这种成本压缩到0了。
Can the dispute be solved with the two sides being thousands of miles apart? Before joining the Internet Court, Judge Zhao Jiangxin has worked for more than 20 years in a traditional court. Zhao is highly experienced. However, when faced with new Internet technologies and this new trial mode, he sometimes feels less confident.
我们集中管辖的这几类案件，很多案件是非常有技术含量的，更多的都需要法官去懂互联网的技术，懂互联网的发展，懂现在互联网面临的一些问题，那么把这些问题带入到案件审判过程中，你才能对于这个案件的这个定性有一个准确的一个把握。
The Internet has no borders. Users can adopt any identity to appear on any platform network. The concealment is strong. With constantly updated new technologies and the emergence of new types of cases, the cases encountered by the Internet Court are increasingly difficult and almost endless. As of December 2022, the number of Chinese netizens reached 1.067 billion. The Internet penetration rate exceeded 75%. New business models and formats of the digital economy were emerging. The volume of the digital economy in China ranked second in the world. While the Internet brings humans convenience, it also provides criminals with technology and space for committing crimes.
一，被告连续15日在夫子救赎网首页刊登向原告丁伟的致歉声明。
Whether Bitcoin has commodity attributes, whether emoticons constitute works and can be protected by copyright law, and how to evaluate network services. The Internet Court, by reviewing illustrative cases, has drawn the behavioral boundaries of netizens and other participants. Since August 2017, after the Hangzhou Internet Court was established, China has established 3 Internet courts, namely in Hangzhou, Beijing, and Guangzhou. Over 350,000 cases have since been handled.
互联网从出现到现在，我们当今数字经济在我们国民经济的占比已经超过了40%，所以网络空间的这个发展，就是对于我们国家的发展是影响也越来越大了。我们的日常的生产生活和互联网已经密不可分了。
Because the Internet is so central to the Chinese economy and the Chinese people, China is pioneering new ways and means to regulate it, with new kinds of rules and venues, exemplified by the dedicated Internet courts. Internet governance thus expresses rule of law strategies, which include the following: coherent legislation, strict law enforcement, impartial justice, legal issues handled comprehensively, not independently, systematically, not randomly. China's encyclopedic civil code to improve social fairness and justice in formulating every law and trying every case. Respect and protect human rights, economic, social, cultural, civil, and political rights. New legislation to address key areas: national security, scientific and technological innovation, public health, biosecurity, ecological civilization, risk prevention, certainly the emerging fields of digital economy, internet finance, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, while respecting personal privacy. A whole populace that is law-abiding.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
王主生，我今天来告上，这个土地是公家的，他也不是他的，不是我的。我们交锋城啊，你听我讲两声。
我先说完。
啊好，
好不好？
听你说完。
你那个地方啊，当时在搭建的时候，下来的雨水啊，要往他们那边流的，对吧？那你搭建的时候就没搭建好，后面这个厨房间、这个房间都是违法建筑，我们也没有拆它。
你帮我两问人家，不要纠纷啊！我下来只正好做人呀。
当时他打这个墙的时候，你就提出来，不让他打，他就打不成。
This is Shen Juxian's third visit to Wang Zhongping to resolve the dispute with her neighbors over land occupation for housing. Wang Zhongping is a mediator.
哎，陈主任，那么他说的涉及到他的土地有多少啊？我已经搞调解搞了33年了嘛。
Receiving visits from the public is one of his main tasks.
往往就是这些小事，相邻权的纠纷很难处理，双方的意见不能统一，老百姓就是这样的，要争一个输赢的。
Boundary line disputes are among the most emotional disagreements that two villagers can have. If they can't be resolved in a timely and effective way, some will escalate and become much more serious. That's why Wang Zhongping thinks that disputes should be resolved at the initial stage.
矛盾呢，你一到上面，这个矛盾就越大，双方当事人啊，这个心情就越不好，甚至会那个民事转刑事。所以说，矛盾化解在基层呢，把这个矛盾就是大事化小，小事化了。
下周到你这村里面去一趟嘛，不是？
不去干到年数来干嘛？我是请我两天来的了。
听我说，我们来之前打你电话。
不管什么当事人到我这里发脾气也好，讲的不好听也好。 我心里面总还是感觉有一点美滋滋的，因为什么呢？因为老百姓会来找我，他是相信我才来找我的。碰到一些疑难复杂的案件啊，人家没有协调好，我去协调了，把它协调好了，那我就出现了一个什么呢？就出现了一个成就感。时间一长，这个成就感呢就越大，越爱上这项工作。 也就是我们县茅调中心筹办的时候，我就自愿报名来到这里。
The Social Disagreements and Disputes Mediation and Resolution Center, or the Mediation Center for short, is a unique Chinese administrative unit. Its primary functions include receiving visits and calls from the people, providing legal and policy services to those in need, and handling significant and complex social disputes. In 2019, the Mediation Center was set up in Anji County.
这是应该是全国是我们最早了，所有的矛盾纠纷，疑难复杂的都可以在这里化解。
Whenever issues are raised by the public, the Mediation Center will respond. This includes cases not easily resolved by law.
在上午是8点多钟，8点左右，具体时间不是很记得。宣布这个死者死亡。
死者是这样的，他们是包工的，就是包什么工？
这个案件啊，也就是一个建筑工程里面的有一个打工的，他的自己的睡觉的地方，也就是那个工棚里面，突然之间就是心肌猝死。
突然一个人50几岁就没了，在这个25分钟就走了，然后呢，我们也就是心情就无法用语言来表达了。
家属的要求呢，要按照工伤死亡的来赔偿，光是一个死亡补偿金就要那个98万多呀。我们也了解了一下嘛，定工伤呢也是定不上，所以他们提出来就是60万。企业方认为呢自己没有责任的，多次商量之后呢，还是达不成协议。
The company's refusal to compensate was based on law, while the family's demand for compensation was based on ethical reasoning. These two viewpoints often clash. Mediators have often found themselves caught between. What Director Wang Zhengping needed to do was to find the balance between the two.
很难的，但是王振平这个主任介入之后啊，感觉就是说跟对方沟通啊，理解了、认知啊，都达到了。
我们这个送到法院搞一个司法确认，那么你们可以申请法院强制执行。最后协定是23万。
就这个事，无论结果如何，都达到我们的满意了。
By leveraging the credibility of government departments, the Mediation Center impartially resolves the two parties' differences. It's not only significantly improved the efficiency of dispute resolution, but also greatly benefited ordinary people.
我们的工作也就是要全心全意为老百姓服务。
With its 1.4 billion people, China has had to find ways to handle disagreements and disputes between people and groups without burdening an already overburdened court system. Mediation committees and local social disagreements and disputes mediation and resolution centers are unique features of China's governance. This is a small part of the large vision of Xi Jinping thought on the rule of law, which China calls a milestone, because although systems of laws have existed throughout China's long history of ruling systems, they were always subject to intervention by local ruling elites. No longer. Grassroots governance is now founded on what China calls people-centered rule of law. China calls its people-centered approach the fundamental difference between the socialist rule of law with Chinese characteristics and the capitalist rule of law, a view, unsurprisingly, that Western legal experts would challenge. Chinese experts call for making the rule of law more complete and more systematic, develop law for emerging fields, strengthen legal supervision, crack down on corruption, strengthen legal protection, and improve judicial training. There is also a puzzle. Strengthening the rule of law is said not to weaken the rule of the party. How can this be? In the past, many local officials simply ignored the law, as if not being subject to law was a privilege of their positions. Some took bribes to subvert law enforcement and judicial process for personal gain. Some were just ignorant. However, President Xi has now made it clear that all party officials must abide by the law. Moreover, there are no statute of limitations for corrupt judges. Even after retirement, they can be prosecuted. Critics claim that, in reality, the party's way is rule by law, not rule of law, in that the party uses the law to rule, but itself is not subject to law. Party theorists refute this charge, stating that in the vast majority of cases the law reigns supreme, and indeed the party protects the rule of law, and that rare exceptions would follow the Chinese characteristic rule of virtue. 6 words summarize aspirations of the rule of law: people-centered, comprehensive, systematic, fair, just, and equal. That's closer to China.